Over the past couple seasons, Overwatch 2 has been doing all sorts of experimental modes, everything from 5v5 Kingmaker to Overwatch Classic to 6v6 role queue and even Min 1 Max 3. I wanted to give each of these tests a little bit of time and create this singular video discussing my thoughts about all of these game modes together. So, my name is Doc, your host for all things healing, and we're taking a quick break from our usual Elder Scrolls Online content to give you my takes on these Overwatch game modes from the viewpoint of a chronic support main. I think it's best that we start with the test that was so popular it actually got an extension to stay in the game longer, that being the 6v6 role queue test. So if you're watching this video, you've probably heard the discourse already as to why Overwatch moved 5v5. Whether it was the double shield meta, whether it was the queue times, whatever the reason, Overwatch moved 5v5 by removing a tank from both sides in an effort to create a more balanced and healthy game experience. You probably also already know why people want 6v6 back. Supports were just playing Dead by Daylight every match, then they got giga buffed into being DPS heroes that can sometimes heal. Tanks felt awful to play because you were basically just a big walking target that held the fate of the team on your shoulders, things like that. So 6v6 returned for a while as a temporary game mode, and what do I think? Well, if I can be completely honest with you, that was the most fun that I have had on Overwatch in years. Was it perfectly balanced? Absolutely not. Did queue time start to suck towards the end of the test? Oh, for sure, they absolutely did. Did either of those things change the fact that I had fun in literally every single match that I played? The answer is no, I had a blast. Now I think my reasonings for enjoying 6v6 might be a little bit different than most. This is probably going to be a spicy take, and especially coming from me who isn't really well known in the community, so just bear with me for a second. See, if you've been around the channel for a while, you probably know the first and most important thing about me, which is that I like to heal. I saw a lot of discourse online from fellow support mains that didn't really care for the heal body playstyle of 6v6, and I actually kind of enjoy that about it. I know, I can hear all the top 500 support mains typing away in the comments right now, saying something like, OMG, I can't believe this loser plays support and actually enjoys healing. And you know what? That's totally fair. I completely understand that a lot of people got used to and enjoy the 5v5 support where there's a much higher emphasis to deal damage and use your utilities offensively. Even I had a small adjustment period when 6v6 first launched because I had also gotten used to playing support more aggressively in 5v5. By no means do I want to invalidate the opinions of all the support mains who enjoy the 5v5 playstyle, but I do think people often try to quote this as an objective reason rather than a subjective one. People talk about healing in Overwatch often in a negative connotation with this conviction that playing aggressively and dealing damage is objectively more fun to everyone than playing tactfully and healing, when that just isn't the case. There are plenty of people who want the support role to focus more on actually supporting your team, but I'd wager most of those people started avoiding competitive or have just left Overwatch altogether. Of course, I do still feel for the high-level support mains that also recognize this healing-focused playstyle does result in lesser skill expression on an individual level and a higher reliance on teammates due to a lack of hard carry potential, which can be frustrating as a solo player. It's a delicate balance, and I don't think either side will ever be truly happy with the way that support functions unless Blizzard fundamentally changes the way that healing works, which I really don't see ever happening. I'm not the best Overwatch player in the world, nor am I an expert of perfect game balancing that will make most people happy, but I figured I could still share a unique perspective that maybe some people hadn't taken into account when discussing 5v5 versus 6v6. All of this to say that from the eyes of a support main, I've personally been having more fun with the 6v6 role queue mode, but I won't ignore the voices of those who have expressed their concerns with it. Overall though, I do think that it's growing pains, and if 6v6 does make a return, I think that people will adjust to the new game mode and still find that support can be pretty proactive in its approach. Okay, I think that's enough of my little rant. I'll step off my soapbox now and move on to the next game mode, the 6v6 Min 1 Max 3 test. And this is probably one of the more interesting of the tests that I'll be talking about. Min 1 Max 3 is a balance of role queue and open queue that is exactly what it sounds like. Each team needs a minimum of 1 hero per role and no more than 3 heroes of a single role. I can't say with 100% certainty whether I actually enjoy this mode more than role queue or not, because there were some matches where I'd love it, and there were some matches where I'd hate it. I think that in its current state, the game is very heavily balanced around the 1-2-2 role queue comp. I don't think realistically Blizzard was ever going to be able to or even want to perfectly balance the roster for a few tests, and that goes with the 6v6 role queue as well. However, this also meant that team comp played a pretty significant role in your enjoyment of this mode. If you got a team that was willing to play more than one tank and support, you probably had a pretty good time. If you ended up with the common 1-3-2 comp that I saw in a lot of games, you probably still had a good time, but less of a good time than the other team that optimized a bit better. Of course, I don't think needing to pick a good team composition of roles is inherently a bad thing. Having that choice can add an extra layer of depth and strategy to the game. But the thing is that players want to win. People will find the best team composition and run that or something very close to that every single time. We saw it with Goats, we saw it with Dive, we saw it with Double Shield, and we'll see it again with, Min 1 Max 3 if that becomes a thing. When that team composition gets nerfed, they'll repeat the process. Unless something happens where there's some sweeping balance changes, I do think that role queue is still the better choice for this game. Finally, we have Overwatch Classic. And I don't really have any firm opinions on this because I don't think it was meant to be an actual test for any sort of balancing or fundamental changes. I think it was just supposed to be a fun little hit of nostalgia to bring the community a little morale during a time where the sentiment about the game wasn't in the greatest state. And it worked. It was stupid, and it was unbalanced, yet it was also hilarious, and it was so much fun. Seeing Symmetra throw a basketball turret at people, watching Bastion turn the payload into a tank, getting that clutch Mercy res, it just all felt great. I think it did a great job at doing exactly what it was supposed to do, which was give the community something to smile about. I wish that I had more to say, but I don't think there was much to speculate about. It was fun, and I'm glad I got to be there for it. Oh, and one last little thing before we move on. I was originally going to have a section for 5v5 Kingmaker 2, but this video is mainly supposed to be about 6v6, and I also just don't feel like I was able to play Kingmaker enough to make an informed judgment about it. Most of what I have to say about Kingmaker can also apply to the Min 1 Max 3 test, so I just wasn't really going to bring it up. Okay, so what does all this mean? I yapped on about these tests for a while, yet we haven't heard anything about what's actually coming from this. Truthfully, I have no idea. Popular opinions range from adding a 6v6 mode to the main game, to having 6v6 be an arcade mode, or even having 6v6 replace 5v5 altogether. What I do know is at the time of typing this out, Overwatch just put out an announcement that they've got an event planned for February 12th regarding the future of Overwatch 2. I also, in between typing this out and recording it, saw that they are also adding a 6v6 competitive mode during the middle of the season. I have a pretty good feeling that the results of these tests are going to be the main point of this event, including this 6v6 competitive that's being added. As far as for what I think is most likely, I really just can't see them scrapping 5v5. But I also don't see them adding yet another match type and splitting up the player base even further. Maybe they try to find some sort of compromise that could help both groups of players, or maybe they scrap it all and go with yet another new format. I honestly can't say for sure, as Blizzard has been pretty tight-lipped about all of this. What I do know is that I appreciate Blizzard is trying something, and they have something planned. For as much as I've been enjoying other games, and despite me being mostly an Elder Scrolls Online content creator, I do still love and play Overwatch even if I'm more of a casual player these days. I have always and will always want to see the game succeed and to see the community happy. Well, I think that was all we had time for today. If you made it to this point, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me for this long. Whether you agree or disagree with me, know that I do respect your opinion, and I don't think my word is worth more than anyone else in the community. I'm a very average player. I'm not amazing by any means. I just figured I would share my thoughts from a unique perspective and hopefully generate a little excitement for whatever this upcoming announcement is. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. And I think all I've got left to say is that I've been Doc. Take care of yourselves, be good to others, don't forget to tune in on February 12th, and I will catch y'all in the next one.